If you're a residential real estate agent earning $200,000 a year and you want to grow your passive income, this show's for you. Learn the secrets other agents use and hear from experts in our field in order to guide you along your journey to investing in assets like apartment communities so that you can turn your commissions into cash flow. I'm Randall McLeod. Let's go, baby. All right, agents, welcome back. Today, we are going to continue our series with top agents from around the country, giving us their tips and tricks and how they are succeeding in business right now and how they're winning more business on the brokerage side. And if they have investments, we talk about the investments, okay? And if they haven't, then we talk about why or how they can get to their goals on that front. So today, we're joined by AJ Pettersen. He is a broker in Minnesota, and we talk about how he went from professional baseball into real estate, how he grew his business, and then how he ultimately got into some investing and started a family business on that side as well. Wealth of knowledge, a lot of good tactics, and a lot of good strategies that he has implemented in his business in order to be successful. And once he figured out, it sounds like to me, once he figured out the model of creating and building and growing a team, he's been able to do that in multiple different verticals of the real estate world. So he has a brokerage side of the business. He's got the podcast going with his brothers. He's got a real estate investment firm going with his brothers and the wives now. And they also started a title company. So again, a wealth of knowledge, got a ton of stuff going on. So really excited to have him on the show today. You're going to get a lot from it. Stick through to the end. As a point of just giving updates, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. It definitely helps us out on the show. And you can follow us and get all the latest episodes in your inbox. We are sponsored by Ridgeline Investment Group. It's a real estate investment firm focused on buying and acquiring large multifamily apartment communities in the Texas market, focused on buying 50 to 150 unit complexes and providing investors opportunities to get in on those deals that they otherwise wouldn't be able to. So check them out, www.ridgelineig.com. And without further ado, let's bring on AJ. Let's go. AJ, great to have you on today. Really excited to get to know you a little bit better and hear kind of your backstory and how you got started in real estate and share some tips and tricks that other agents can use to have success in growing their broker side of the business, but also maybe some investing if we get into that. So again, thanks for having you on. Want to dive in and ask you, I know that you played some ball, some baseball. So question that immediately popped in my mind was what sort of lessons did you learn playing ball, playing team sports, that sort of thing that you are able to take into business?
Oh man, that's a loaded question, man. That's a big one. I mean,
not many professional baseball players I talk to that I can ask that question of.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say so. Like, I guess my background is I'm a 5'9" kid from like a snow state that played professional baseball. So like, I learned so much about, I guess, overcoming some hurdles and what it would take to do it. But I think mostly the number one thing that still I carry with me is that you can't snap your fingers and have anything happen meaningful in life. And everything requires not only an incredible amount of like hustle, grit, and effort, but it also requires an incredible amount of time. And that's something that I try to train my agents on too, like just understanding that time has to pass for you to become successful in something, and it takes continual effort, and it builds on itself. So that's, I guess, the number one thing I probably learned from my time playing ball.
Yeah, fantastic advice. And it's very difficult to actually get okay with that, I guess, to become comfortable with that. I know so many deals that we look at and we do, it's like, oh man, nothing's fast in real estate. It just doesn't seem to happen. So yeah, great advice. And so, tell me some of your backstory. Like, how did you get from ball into real estate? How did that transition happen? Or, pick it up. Maybe tell me about baseball. Tell me your backstory.
Yeah. So, like I said, grew up in Minnesota in a suburb just outside of Minneapolis called Minnetonka. Live on the same street I grew up on now. So
nice,
full circle. But I played baseball at the University of Minnesota for the Gophers. Got drafted in 2011 by the Twins, signed and played parts of 4 seasons across 4 different levels. Got to a point where they were going to send me back down from AA to high A. And me and my wife were like, living on the air mattress with like a box as the end table kind of thing. And we're like, I was 26 and
Yeah.
like I wasn't doing well. I couldn't keep up at that level. So I guess I retired from my first career is kind of what I always say. Working on my second retirement now. But yeah, we packed up and headed home. I was trying to get into baseball coaching at the time. Found a job. Actually, someone was crazy enough to hire me as the head varsity baseball coach at a local school here. And I was like, I'd like to get into real estate in some form or fashion. I've been interested in architecture, construction, just houses in general, and kind of that whole world. And met with a few people and said, hey, would I be good at this? And one guy was on a real estate team. He said, yeah, you'd be great. So I just kind of hopped in and started doing it without any, I guess, expectation of what was going to happen or whatever, and just put my head down. Like I mentioned, like put my head down, put in the work, put in the time. And, we slowly got to where I am. I don't know how far you want me to go with the whole story, but
Yeah,
that's how I got into it, really.
Yeah, for sure. Were you working at the time and you started doing real estate on the side, or you quit the high school?
No. So I retired from baseball, got back. The high school job was like, it probably required like, I don't know, 15, 20 hours a week it doesn't get nice here until like early April, and the season's over by June 5th, so it's like a 2-month window. It lined up really poorly with spring real estate market here too, but a lot of work, but yeah, it wasn't too crazy. So real estate was really my full gig kind of from out of the gate.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And so then you started in the brokerage side. You weren't on the investing side. You were with a team, or you signed up. Sounds like, right?
Yeah. So I was on a team for 1 year. They opened a brokerage. So then I was a solo agent. And then right around a year after that, maybe my brother and I started kicking around the idea of doing some investing, just because I was in it. And we both had our first houses in the same city, which is a first ring suburb of Minneapolis called St. Louis Park. Yeah. And we're like, heck, let's just see what we can do here. And that side of things really snowballed and became something. All of this kind of became something that I wasn't necessarily planning on, but just kind of a result of good opportunities given to me, taking advantage of different things, and then just soaking up as much knowledge and things as I possibly can so that I could continue to grow and push things forward. So both of those businesses have kind of blossomed over the past 6 years.
Yeah, fantastic. So, well, let's tackle one at a time then, because I'm curious. On the broker side, obviously, we got agents listed to show there. The whole idea is so that they can, grow their active income to then channel it into passive investments or into some sort of active, either single family house or like a big apartment community, whatever it is. So, in order to build the brokerage side of their business or the service side of the business, like, are there some things that one, I guess, tell me about your brokerage. Like, how are you guys structured? Is it your brokerage? Are you?
It's my team. So okay. I'm at eXp Realty. Okay. We were at Engel and Volkers. It was a small boutique firm where I started my team. The numbers just didn't work with where I ended up wanting to go with it. So we left with 4 agents. We were about 125 sales the year we left. And since we left in 2019, we've grown it to, I've got 30 agents now, and probably like 450 sales is what we're shooting for this year. So yeah, that whole thing has grown fairly rapidly once we figured out how to achieve a little bit of scale. But yeah, we grew that I grew mine all strictly based on Sphere Business. I grew up here and I just have a lot of repeat and referral business. And then we procured a really good account with Zillow, and the rest is kind of history on the growth there.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's winning you the most business right now? Like, what are you seeing in this environment that is maybe something somebody else could implement that you do really well that wins you some business?
Gosh, that's a great question. We're really heavy on online leads, so we have very, very good systems and processes in place. I think just understanding how to best do past client follow-up, that's what I've focused my entire career on, which is a lot of people think like, I do past client follow-up. Like, I email everybody once a month. And I'm like, that's not past client follow-up. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm reaching out to every single person. I have 390 in my database. They either get reached out to every 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. They do get a monthly newsletter, but they get an actual reach out. Says, hey, how you doing? Like, how's your summer been? Hey, saw you had a baby. How's that been going? I have coffees and lunches. That's how I was taught real estate. So that's all I've done. But my team functions a lot off of online leads and being really, really good at converting online leads.
Yeah, that's good. My wife and I have been talking about actually growing at the brokerage side of the business. And she pinged me today and she said, what do you think is going to happen? Is AI going to take over the real estate business? I was like, I don't know. They're not going to shaking hands. It's going to complement the business, I'm sure, but I don't see it taking over. And so, yeah, to your points, it's very much handshake to handshake, belly to belly sort of business. So yeah, take that. If you're out there trying to figure out how to grow your business, start going out and having more coffees and more lunches and talk to more people.
Yeah, I found people are just scared. They're scared to do it. Like they won't put in the activities. It's all just inputs and outputs, really. Yeah. Business really isn't that complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, again, do you think that you have that work ethic from playing in sports, or was that just, you think it's just, you saw that and you're like, okay, if I just do the activity, I know it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, my college coach was huge on all that stuff, which was like, you can only control what you can, right? And it's this, and this. And typically if you nail it on all those things, then over here, this stuff that you can't really control will kind of even out over time and give you a good result.
Yeah. And takes care.
Yeah. I've taken that with me.
Yeah. Takes care of itself when you do the things. Yeah. We had the saying our coach always gave us was the little things, do the little things, and they add up, and there you go. Mm-hmm. So yeah, solid advice. Okay. So you've got, now you guys are crushing it. You're doing 400 plus transactions a year, 30 plus agents, give or take. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, fantastic. Good to hear you guys are doing well. Again, on the broker side of the business. So what is it about EXP? I'm just curious myself, like how is that model different from like a KW or something, or Engel Volker?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, fundamentally, like splits are splits. So like there's brokerages that offer this and that and the other things. I don't really ever get into that. I mean, that was like the main focus for me when we were looking into it, is I looked for my books and I'm like, Cal, I'm just giving too much to the house. Like I can't make these numbers work. And it was a pretty big delta just overnight. And it was going to get bigger and bigger with the way things are structured here. So I just kind of saw the writing on the wall that like, I just can't do this forever this way. And then I switched over, and the number one benefit that I've had is one that I didn't like super strongly consider when I actually chose the XP, which was like, I entered into a group that's got people that have already done what I'm trying to do. And they're like, not only are they willing to help me, like they want to help me. So I've got two groups here locally. One is slightly ahead of us in sales, and the other one is like double our sales. So every time I've got like, I run against a wall, or I have agent leaves the team, or I'm hiring a new staff member, or I need to put a new system in place, I just call them up and they'll just send over whatever I need. They'll interview people with me. It's just crazy. So I've got these sounding boards, and they're very high powered people. I mean, between the three groups, we'll sell like 1,500 to 2,000 homes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, and so your main driver, are you guys mainly both sides of the transaction, or are you guys doing a lot of the buy side?
80% buyers.
80, yeah. And that's mainly from like a Zillow Connect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a few guys that I know here in San Antonio that really got into the Zillow side, and they were just, they're crushing it just from almost cornering the market on the Zillow leads. Yeah. Okay. So what are maybe some tools that you guys use within the company that are helpful, that either help you be more productive or help your agents be more productive, or maybe just that get you more deals? You have any tips like that?
I mean, the number one thing, and it's probably hokey to say, but I think the most important tool you can have in real estate is a good CRM, whether that's using Google Sheets as a spreadsheet all the way to, having Salesforce custom built out for you. We use Follow Up Boss. I think it's the best CRM for real estate out there, just because it's super simple to use, but it's pretty powerful in what it can actually do. When used properly, it's great, right? Yeah. That's the caveat. I have a VA that will send, he'll go through my smart lists on Follow Boss. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically we'll go through these lists and say, hey, AJ, it's time to reach out to these 10 people. I'll reach out to them. He'll log the information in there. It'll knock them off the list, and they'll pop back in there at a certain preset time. And I try to get my agents to do this because they have spheres of networks here, and they just have a lot of layup leads that they're working with that, call in and want to do a showing. But I'm trying to get them to this is the right way to build a business, the right way to do it. And I'll send out all the time where like yesterday, for instance, I texted a past client and said, just, hey, how's it going? And he said, oh, I was meaning to call you today. And I was like, I haven't talked to this guy in 6 months. He's like, I inherited $1.2 million. I want to do some flips. So it's like, I'm like, that doesn't just happen, right? Yeah. Like it's all about the daily efforts and actions. And in Follow Up Boss, that's been a great tool for us. I think another big one for us is work chat, like workplace collaboration. So Facebook Workplace, they've got a chat function in there. So my agents collaborate on there a lot. So I've got, 30 agents, right? I got one of them at a showing at 8:30 at night, and the heating source for the house looks kind of weird and they don't know exactly what it is or how it functions. And they take a picture of it and they say, who knows what this thing is, right? And immediately they've got like 3 answers of people who have seen this before. And technology is so cool in the way that it can facilitate so much. Kind of like you're talking about with AI, like Chat GPT we've been using lately to generate scripts for videos. Our podcast was written entirely on Chat GPT this morning, all the questions. That's awesome. So it's like super neat, right? Yeah. But yeah, I could go on to a long list of tools that we have that kind of each fit into our systems. I think the most important thing really on that topic is that you actually use them.
For sure.
Right. So like you can have a CRM with all the bells and whistles, and then you can just like never log on to it. It's not going to do anything for you. All these tools are really just to facilitate. They don't really automate a ton for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I second that. I mean, on the CRM, it is huge to have. And if you get your whole team on board, rowing in the same direction, using it the right way, then that's where the power comes in. And obviously the follow-up. But yeah, if you don't ever log that you made a call to somebody, then it doesn't help.
How do you know
doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We're proud to be sponsored by Ridgeline Investment Group. Ridgeline has a track record of transacting more than $53 million in assets throughout Texas. Ridgeline is currently looking to acquire 100 to 200 unit Class B multifamily communities between 5 and 20 million in San Antonio, Temple, Waco, Tyler, and other Texas secondary markets. To learn more about Ridgeline Investment Group, visit www.ridgelineig.com. Okay. And so let's see. We went through that. So one of the things I've been asking a lot of other agents, like, what are the main KPIs you guys are tracking? What are some things that you look at?
Yeah, I mean, we've got overall sales goals, right? So I see that 450 number here in Minnesota. It's like super seasonal. So we break that down percentage-wise by quarter to see if we're actually tracking the right way. The KPIs that are the easiest are the ones for Zillow because they've got pretty specific numbers they want us to hit. So when like an online lead comes in, we're trying to book an appointment with 75% of them. We're trying to meet with 50% of them. We're trying to offer with 15% of them and convert into a closing 10% of them. Yeah. But that's also like an all-time number, right? So we have got a 180-day number that's much lower than that because what if we convert them between day 180 and day 365 or day 365 plus? So we actually have a VA that I call him my head of data. So he manually will track every lead when it comes into the system. And then he goes through the life cycle of that lead, whether it got under contract, whether it got trashed or sent back to the ISAs. So we use that spreadsheet to kind of work out those KPIs. I think that's the easiest way in real estate to really, I mean, it's a very cut and dry way to have a goal or a KPI to shoot for.
Yeah. What does your team look like? If you've got how many VAs, how many, like what do you have going on?
I got a head of data VA. So he literally is just doing what I described all day because we got 10,000 leads in the system. Yeah. I've got a VA that does marketing, but like really like graphic design and print graphics. Got a lot of print background. So he knows like right where a bleed line needs to be for a trifold to like look right. Yeah. So he does a lot of that. And they're in the Philippines. And then I have a full-time ISA, a full-time licensed ISA, a part-time licensed ISA. I've got a transaction coordinator, operations manager /HR/listing coordinator is one guy. Mm-hmm. And then I got a content creator, and then I've got a salaried agent. And then I've got the 30 agents, obviously, are contractors.
So that's like literally just your team for you to transact. Yeah. Yeah. Solid.
So eight staff.
Yeah. And are you, okay, let's get back into the investing side then, or the whole view of it. So you get somebody calling you up, they want to sell their house, and you look at it. Are you looking at it with an investor lens and a broker lens? How do you draw the line there? Because that's kind of it's always been a dicey deal, you know?
Yeah, not usually, to be honest. Like we are, and I can get into the weeds on it too if you want me to. You just tell me. But the way that we invest in property, it's a very, very specific property that we buy, and we really haven't bought anything other than that very, very specific property. So like I ran across one where I had the opportunity about 6 months ago where it was in foreclosure, 2 months from redemption period running up, and like just a really hairy deal. But it was my old neighbor, and just the way the whole thing was, I was like, I don't really want to like make you feel like I'm screwing you over. Like this is not, I would buy your house at a fair price, what I think is a fair price, but I just don't feel good about doing that. I'd rather just sell it to another investor so that it's a little bit more hands off. And I represented her. So yeah, it's pretty rare that I would have a potential listing that might be a purchase for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Let's talk to the investment side then. So your brother and you started this thing, or how is it set up?
And it was kind of dumb luck, man. Like I knew how to like do nothing when I bought my first house, right? Like construction wise, like never had like hung a picture on a wall, like just didn't grow up knowing that stuff, but I was always interested. So we bought a place. I started, I did a little tile job, and then I was like, oh, I could probably GC this basement. So I GC'd the basement. I framed some of it. I started just learning. Yeah. And then I would be there, the electrician's wiring it up. I'm like, why are you doing that way? Plumber's there. Why are you doing that way? HVAC, same thing. So I started to learn the rules, kind of the order of business, all of that as I was redoing, me and my wife's first house. And then me and my brother Josh are like, he lived in South Carolina at the time, but we're like both making good money. We're like, we could invest in something. Let's invest in St. Louis Park. We know it. We think it's up and coming. So we bought a property, and it was a weird story, but long story short, I don't know if you guys have city inspections when you sell property where you are. Do you?
Not when we sell it, but when we're rehabbing it. Yeah. When
okay,
right. Permits. Yeah, you got to have.
Yeah, for permits. But we've got like, so what's called a point of sale inspection. So there's an ordinance trying to make it so that houses don't get in super disrepair as they get transferred from person to person throughout the year. Okay. So like can't have leaves in the window wells, have to have smoke detectors, et cetera, et cetera. We buy houses that have like huge lists from the city. Like your furnace has to get replaced. All the siding looks like it's destroyed. Like there's shingles falling off. You need to fix all these things, right? And so in the area we're buying, there's very few people that would be interested in the types of property we are, because they don't fit a traditional flip, because they're too expensive to redo. Like they'd be too expensive to then dispose of the property and try and make a profit, right? First time buyers are typically buying in this area because they're smaller starter homes, but they don't want to take on $10,000 of city repairs when they buy a house because they're 3-5% down. They just don't have the funds to do it, and they're just scared off by the property. We'll take a house where we can make 10, 15, maybe 20% equity on it. So get most of our money back out of the projects. That maybe wouldn't make sense if we turned around and disposed of it, because we'd only make 8 to 10% profit on that property. But they make a ton of sense if you're hanging on to it, because I just captured free equity. My cash flow numbers look like 30% ish most of the time.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So that's kind of how we backing up. But like our first property had that big long list, right? And we bought it, and I had the construction knowledge, and I had gone through these point of sale inspection deals. And so then we just started picking off tons of properties that had these long lists of things. And it's the same inspectors every time too. So like I know who to talk to at the city. They know who I am. Like we became buddies with a lot of these people, and I was able to work us through the city thing and a rehab and get most of our money out and then get them rented. So we started doing that in like 2017, and we're now up to 16 properties.
Nice. I mean, to me, that is a pretty easy lead source almost, it's just like, oh, okay, this one needs this. And you've already done the inspection. I know what I have to do to go fix it. Thank you. Yeah, that saves some time and energy.
Right.
These things
and truthfully, like a lot of the stuff gets just eaten up in the total project that we do anyways, because we're doing like $100,000 to $150,000 projects on all these houses. So this, the furnace being replaced was a foregone conclusion. It's 25 years old.
Yeah. So what's the, I guess, age of these houses, and what are the price points? What are resale median and what do you guys?
So they're like every single house we own is, I think the oldest is 1948 and the newest is 1954.
Yeah. And that,
So they're all post-war. Most of them are half-story homes. So that means like it's got like a pseudo master bedroom upstairs with like slanted ceilings.
Okay.
It's like an attic upstairs kind of.
Yeah. And you call it a half story?
Half story. That's what they're called here.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's got the half story and then the main floor and then a basement.
Okay.
And our buy box is like, I think we just paid $270 for a property. Our most recent one that I'm working on right now. First one was $175, but most of the time right now it's like $240 to $260 feels pretty good. Depending
is that
on
all in, or is that
No.
pre-rehab?
That's pre-rehab. And then I'll put about, like I said, let's say I paid $250. I'll put, 110,000 into it or 100,000 into it. I'm all in at $350. It's probably worth $400 to $425 at that point. And then we'll stick a renter in there at like $3,200.
Yeah, that's solid in rent. What size? What's the square footage typically of those?
17 to 1,800 square feet, 4 bed, 2 bath. So the half story works well because we usually get 4 single people, right? We like 4 guys or 4 girls living together, and we'll get like 1 that wants to live upstairs, 2 on the main floor, and then 1 in the basement. And it's a little bit more separation between the spaces.
That's got it. This
been our thing.
Sounds like a very specific sort of area though, that would have that sort of clientele, because it's not typical. It's almost like a student housing sort of deal.
It's super interesting. I mean, we own 10 in a 10 by 4 block area.
Okay.
So, and this is not like the city, right? Like think of like just a first ring suburb of any major area. Like the houses are 40-foot lots. They're not detached garages, the whole bit, but it's pretty specific. So, and we've had no trouble getting 4 or 5 a year, really.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So then let's talk to that. So you guys, did you have any concerns or fears when you were first getting into your first investment, or were you just like, gung ho, let's go?
Yeah, I was like gung ho, let's go. My brother and his wife are like a lot more thoughtful decision makers than I. Like me and my wife are like way more impulsive. So I like saw one, I'm like, let's just write up an offer. So we started just ripping, and then we started losing these offers, and I'm looking back, I'm like, we should have bought every house. Like they were $150,000. Crazy, right? But yeah, I mean, I was pretty gung ho because especially after a couple of them too, because then I was like, Josh, I know how to do all of this stuff. Like nothing in these houses scares me. I can figure out if the foundation's bad, which is so rare on these. I mean, it is a city block flat. Like it'd be tough to wreck your foundation on some of these properties. You'd have to really try. The rest of it, it's like, yeah, that's going to cost me X. That's going to cost me Y. I can just draw it on a napkin and I'll be like, here's what we should offer these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very similar. Yeah. We get to the point where I was taking a foundation tool, because every time I called a foundation company to come out, all they have is the water level. Have you seen those? And they drop it on. I was like, this thing's $400. I'm going to buy one. So I always had it with me in the truck. I'd go in and I'd do it myself. It's off by 3 inches. I know exactly how much this is going to cost. And so, yeah, if you don't have one, you may, but I don't know. When you're buying we're doing a ton of like a lot per year,
You're buying are you buying stilted houses on
pier and beam but it's good to know, because there are certain parts of town, once and you're driving down the streets, here's a little tip, anybody trying to buy a house. If you're driving down the streets and the roads themselves are messed up, your foundation is going to be bad. It's just the way it is. From having a garbage truck driving down that street so many times, or a school bus, it's going to mess up the road. And so every foundation in that neighborhood has been touched, or should be. But yeah, I had that's funny. I used to have that thing. I'd take my little ladder out, do the whole inspection by myself. So yeah, on the investment side, so you guys are cranking out. What advice would you have to, I guess, an agent? Because again, I've talked to a lot of agents, and they're either afraid to start, or they're not sure how to get started and into buying a house or to investing in something. You have any advice to anybody like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same advice I give to investor clients of mine, right? Eventually, and this is straight from my mentor who owns 2,000 doors. He's like, eventually you just have to do it.
Yep.
Right? Like, and everybody, I've had so many, I'm sure you have too. People reach out because you've done real estate investing and they're like, I want to invest in real estate. Mm-hmm. And then they dance around and they analyze their projects over and over and over. And then someone else buys it. And meanwhile, I'm just running laps around these people. And obviously you are too. It's like, you have to just do it. Like you can analyze it to death, But figure out what you're trying to do. And for us, that was, the area we're buying in is the first house is 10 minutes from my driveway and the last one is 14. So like we very specifically knew where we were going to live, where we wanted to buy so that we could group them together and hit all of them at the same time if we needed to. And so have that as part of your strategy and have an end goal in mind too. Like nobody's the same, right? Somebody might say, I want to have 1,000 units. And the other person might say, I want to have enough to put my kid through college. Like 2 houses would be just fine, right? So like understand what your goal is. And then once you figure that out and you figure out what your buy box is, just do it. Just buy one, right? Yeah. Like you shouldn't screw up if you've already done your homework.
Yeah. And if you do, the other side of that is if you do, you're not going to screw up so bad that if you buy it right or close to right. Tell this to my wife. She's literally rehabbing her first house right now and all on her own, doing her whole thing. And I talked about this with somebody else yesterday. Like if you make $5 on it, great. It's a very expensive $5, $400,000 house, but or if you lose 20,000, like it's not the end of the day. It can be if that's all the money you've got, but really it's like she's getting so much of a lesson out of this one deal that once she's done with it, she's going to be able to take all the systems that she learned, all the things the lessons that she learned, go on to the next house and know that when a water heater is installed wrong, that's wrong. Like, here's how you fix it. You just learned that, right?
Well, and I think too, what's important is like going through this and being like my own general contractor for these projects, right? Or project manager, if you will, has equipped me with so many things that I can train my agents. Like in 2 weeks, we're doing a showings tour. I'll walk through a house and I'll tell them all the stuff they have to look for on an electrical panel, in a furnace, on plumbing pipes, drain lines, like siding, windows, all that, because I know all of it. And again, back to the first thing I said, I didn't just snap my finger and then like know everything, right? Like, and I still don't know everything, but it happened through continual effort and actually just being there and doing it, like actually physically doing it. I'm doing plumbing myself. Like, here's how you actually install that. Here's why that's wrong. Has been and it's been huge for my real estate business because I've come off as professional and legitimate immediately at a showing.
Yeah, for sure. And then that's a huge value add to your agents that you have, because then you can show them that. I remember doing a property tour with a guy, and they're so helpful when you go with somebody who's knowledgeable like that, because I was super green. This was years and years and years ago, before, maybe after I bought one house or something. But he walked in and he showed me just walking up to a house. He's like, okay, you see how the water's coming here? The water is always going to cause your foundation. He just like pointed out 50 different things that I didn't even notice, but it was before we even got in the house.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a huge value add. If your agents don't realize that they're getting a massive benefit from your knowledge there, they should. Yeah. So that's good. All right. So on the investment side, so what are your goals now? Like, because that's another thing I talk about big time. You touched on it. It's know your goal, know what you're trying to go for. I feel like when I got into real estate, the whole idea was cash flow. I just really want cash flow. And then I went into the rehab world and sold all those things. So I'm flipping. And I was like, oh, this money's great. But wandering the desert of looking for the shiny object got me away from the cash flow side of it. So I really am big on, what's the goal? What's your exit? What are you trying to do? So yeah, what are you working on? What's your goal there?
Mostly on the investing side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've kind of set a target of like 50 properties. We've realized that at 20, I think, is probably like the breaking point from an in-house property management perspective. So we are trying to get a property management company off the ground in 2023, hopefully, to propel us forward in that. It's also an intriguing business for us, just fundamentally. I think after doing it ourselves and seeing other people do it, it seems like something we could probably pull off. But yeah, I think getting to 50 would be huge. If we did have that management arm, that would, alleviate a lot of the potential time stress, and just the timing of when things happen can be kind of all over the place in rental real estate. So for those who have not invested, don't think that like the toilet breaks in the middle of the night, because it doesn't happen any more than it happens at your own house. Yeah. So but stuff happens, right? Like the CO alarm's going off at 9:30 and you're getting texted. It's like, I can't come over there right now, but you need to leave, that kind of stuff. So having a management team in place will be really helpful. But yeah, we've really just set 50 as the target, and we have no intention of buying anything outside of the city we're currently in, save for city council doing something crazy, really.
Yeah. So why 50 though? Is that just for financial reasons and for the like management side of it? Because if you have a PM company.
Yeah, it was financial reasons at first, I'd say, but now we've got, even it could be less than that from a financial perspective now, just because of the other buckets from other businesses that we've started, have started filling up from, like you said, a cash flow, kind of a passive stream of income. But that was the initial thing. It's 3 families. My younger brother and his wife are now involved. So it was like, hey, if we have 50, like we could stick a manager on this and we would be able to just live our lives just off of this.
Yeah. Solid. Yeah. So I'm interested. I want to talk to you about the property management side of it too. I'm looking at that as well. For me, I feel like there's more on the multifamily side. There's like a missing aspect from 20 to 90 units. A lot of property management companies don't like that pocket just because it's hard to manage. And so it's kind of the same thing when you're looking at 50 doors that you own. What kind of systems can you put in place that make it a heck of a lot easier for you to run that thing? What kind of tech can you use in order to set that up? Because ultimately, if it's your company, you're still going to have somebody running it. It would be off of your plate for the most part. But I'd be curious to hear how far into that process or thought process are you?
Well, so unfortunately, our brokerage doesn't allow for property management. So we're having to get somebody licensed within the company and then get them at a different brokerage to start that, just to get the ball rolling. So that's one of the bigger difficulties to get it started. We currently have some systems in place. I would say we could be, from the project management system that we have rolling is like really good. Like we don't miss stuff. We're ordering everything at the right time. We're getting people out there at the right time. I think property management, we've taken a bit of a shotgun approach, but we've started to hone it in a little bit more. But to me, like just how I understand business and, how I'm running this team, my real estate team, finding ways to implement certain systems or tech into the property management space really just doesn't seem that difficult to me. And it's getting a renter to rent a property is a heck of a lot easier than getting a buyer to buy a property. So just the level of salesmanship that we're going to need from a potential employee is also significantly less. Like it takes a very special individual to sell 50 houses in a year. It doesn't take a very special individual to show a property and lease it out, right? Yeah. So it's really just a franchise model. So once we get A to Z, and just sit down and understand all the things that we already are doing on our own properties, we'll probably just put SOPs in place for everything. And then it can just be franchised out. It's really simple, right? You add 100 units, you need one property manager. You just hand them the book and say, here's how you run the entire business. Yeah. And it all should be pretty streamlined.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So I guess you mentioned something, you have other buckets that are filling up. What else are you investing in or doing, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So obviously I have my team business and then I have my own real estate sales business. We started a title company last year.
How was that process?
My buddy did most of the grunt work on it. So it's our 3 teams together that own that.
Yeah. What was the rationale there? You saw the fee. Is it like a fee office or you guys are full blown?
Really, really good margins. We're not like an attorney state. So it's just a title company that does the closing with a closer.
Okay.
And the margins are really, really good. But again, there's a massive amount of regulation. So you've got to have, we had an attorney from Washington, D.C. that did all the RESPA compliance and all that kind of stuff. And you got to really follow that system really good to make sure that I'm way over the top, because I know people in our business don't follow the actual rule like they should. And so we do very, very closely. And I check on it pretty frequently just to make sure we're doing everything right. But yeah, it was just capture. I mean, like the margins were good, and it was like, 1,500 to 2,000 transactions would put us at, I don't know, we'd be pretty high up in the state in terms of title companies. So we're already off the ground and running and doing fairly well there.
Yeah. I would think if you're just feeding your business through your own title company, that's a leg up. Yeah. My wife had talked about it because she was doing a lot of our transaction coordinating, working with a title company, doing all the different things. And she was like, why are we not starting a title company? That's interesting that you guys did that.
Yeah. I think it was like a ton of work for them. I was just kind of on the side and obviously now an owner in it, but we also started an insurance partnership this year. EXP's got revenue share. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
Yeah, I have. I'm not sure how that model works, and if is it a big drive or big pull as to why you moved to them, or is it just kind of like, it's a nice to have, but
it wasn't at all. It wasn't at all a big pull when I went. Then I realized like the reason that the model is the way that it is because of the revenue share. Because like these folks above me that I'm in their group, like they have no incentive to start a title company with me or to, help me with my business unless they're making some money on that. They will when they have time, but as soon as time becomes limited, you value the things that are producing business and producing revenue, So it when I came in, it wasn't at all a focus, but it's become more of a focus for us lately, just because I think we have something special to offer it especially to some of these team leaders for how to grow their business to where we are. And I'm a good example of that, right? Coming in at 125 and getting to 450 in like 4 years. It's like, we're actively seeking out teams like this to bring into our group. Not only does it help our revenue share, but it makes our group more diversified, better voices when we get together and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. I'd heard how they kind of set it up, but I hadn't researched their model so much. But I knew there was some sort of rev share in it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's most of, the buckets we have going on, right? The rental properties, the real estate sales, and the few other vertically integrated businesses.
Yeah. So just high level on a market approach right now. I'm in San Antonio. What's the market like there? What are you guys seeing as far as the pricing? Has any of that slowed down, and listings, days on market, any of that stuff increased? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, prices are super seasonal here. So they'll peak every year in June or July, and then they will trough the next January, usually December, January, and then they'll start coming back up again. So it'll be interesting to see how the prices kind of settle out in February for those closings. The prices declined faster this year than they did last year by like a pretty decent margin. I think they went down 9 or 10%, and in 2021 to 2022, they went down by 5%. So we've seen a bigger decline. New listing activity is absolutely atrocious. So we're like 40-50% short every week pretty much right now.
Yeah.
And the buying activity has picked up.
Okay. So you feel like the buyer demand is there and the sellers just don't want to go to market? Maybe.
Well, I mean, mostly like how I explain it to people, I guess in simple terms, like if a seller's selling and they're downsizing or they're moving up, right? They're buying another house. They're basically as good as just staying in their house. Like their impact on the marketplace is net zero, right? We need more people moving into senior housing, more people like dying and having to sell that property. Like we need more net positive listings to the market kind of thing. We need builders to really pick up. We need people to move out of the market. Like, because as we've got all that pent up demand that just was unable to buy because the market was so crazy. Well, they all re-signed their leases either once or twice, through 2021 and 2022. And it's like, now they're back again, albeit with these, much higher rates. They're just adapting to a new reality. And so we've seen, we had agents lose in 12, 13 offers over the weekend. So it's really picked up from 2 months ago in a way that I was not expecting at all.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to hear. Yeah. It's one of I had a conversation with another agent in Rhode Island, and he was saying that the prices have just continued to go. They're still getting multiple offers on their deals. Different market, right? But it's hard to explain to some people who all they hear is doom and gloom that the economy's crashing, but the fundamentals of the market and how I guess the prices have increased because people still do not want to sell their houses or get rid of their 2%, 3% mortgages, has kept some of the demand there. Yeah. So, all right. Are you familiar with funds, syndications? Have you guys looked at any kind of like multifamily stuff or any other kind of assets like that?
Yeah. Yep. I just got one of them just closed. I was in it for like a year, doubled my money. That one was pretty sweet. I've got a group here out of the North Metro that I was in on 2. The one just sold another one in Minneapolis that I'm just an investor in. And then I got one more in Robbinsdale locally here. So I've got, one more in state right now and one out of state that I'm in, and then 2 that I exited. How
do you find those? How did you find them? Did they find you, or were you actually out seeking for opportunities, or what was the...
It was just networking really. One of them, I put the deal together and my investors ended up doing a syndication on it. I was the agent. those other two with that North Metro guys, I just got connected with them through a lender locally and met with them and thought this would be something interesting to do.
Yeah.
And then the other one's buddies with the best friend of mine from high school.
Okay. What kind of deals were they? What were you investing in?
So the one that just sold was in Pampa, Texas. So it's like a manufacturing town. They're like big Rust Belt guys. So like they'll buy like, 2 hours outside of Tulsa. They'll buy like just all over the place. Yeah, you're in Texas, right? So so like kind of a middle of nowhere. Yeah, middle of nowhere.
PAMPA.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Tiny little town. I think it's like 15,000 people. They all work at 3 different factories kind of thing. And they all rent at this apartment complex. It was 150, 200 units.
Okay. So apartments.
Yeah. Student housing deal in Southern Illinois, University of Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
And then, just local smaller apartment complexes here too.
Yeah. So are you seeing any new opportunities or new offerings lately? And if you did,
I think I haven't seen as much, to be honest. And I think it's slowing down a little bit because those, like, some of them have withheld preferred returns like for a quarter to wait out and build up cash reserves and stuff. So I think they're having a harder time getting stuff leased out and having as much success as they've obviously been having.
I don't know if it would be the lease out. I'd be curious to know if that's actually what it is, or if it's if they had like a floating rate on the debt, and because the rates increased, then that's why most people have either paused or they're having an issue hitting their return numbers.
These two that I'm in on are locked for, one's for 7 and one's for 10, I think.
7 year or
7 years.
Okay.
7 years. Yeah. So they should be, I don't know. I think they should be solid. It's a good point though. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are just playing the overnight rate kind of deal, and they're paying per diem and they got smoked. Yeah.
It's there are a number of those that I've seen. And so that's why I just didn't know how they were performing. If you're seeing new offerings, one, I wanted to ask you about, like, what was the pref and what was the split? Like, how did you guys have that set up? We don't have any deals here, but it's just high level. So it's not like you're, 506 having an issue here, but
yeah, for sure. They're 8% preferred returns.
Okay.
And then they're like a blend. I mean, 65-35 is kind of like the overall thing. They're taking spiffs on all. They make a ton of money on the acquisition fee, the guarantee fee, the disposition fee, refinance fee, all those different things where they're making money. I'm just really focused on the dollar at the end of the day, right? So if I put $25,000 in and they gave me $50,000 in a year, I'm like, man, that was great. I got my check. So it worked.
That's yes, very good return. At the end of the day, it does matter what you put in your dollar, like your return on your investment. Yeah, it's there are fees on all those deals. It takes a lot to get those things going. But I was just curious. I didn't know. Again, I had a securities attorney on the other day, and I'm talking to him because he obviously sees a ton of offerings and he writes them up. I'm like, okay, so what are you seeing anything new? Like, what are people putting out? I'm really curious. Like, is our deal terms changing from the 70-30, 7 pref type split? Like, that's kind of, and so he was talking about the, like, income funds are big right now. So just giving a straight pref, like a 10%, 12% pref, and no upside
on like an apartment complex, or what kind of property?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's like what he's saying, because you're an income fund. At that point, it changes a little bit. You can come in and out of it quite a bit, and you can directly reinvest. And so if you're getting, distributions on a monthly, quarterly basis, you can just reinvest that directly back in and just, compound your money.
And it's a fund. So they're actively buying different properties.
Yeah. In and out, evergreen fund. So I'm looking at that as the type of fund that I want to set up.
Interesting.
Just run it. Yeah. So we've covered a lot. I don't know. Are there any other things? Something I should have asked that I didn't. Something you wanted to speak to specifically? I know you have a podcast. Like, tell me about your pod and what do you guys cover there?
Yeah. So our pod's called the Nerdy Agent Podcast.
All right.
It's me and my 2 brothers. We're all dorks. So Josh is a finance guy. That's his background. Before he got into real estate, he's an agent on the team too. And so is Luke. And Luke went to finance at the U of M too. And I'm an economics guy.
It's helpful to have a finance guy hanging around.
Yeah. He's a spreadsheet nerd. So we talk about things like why the producer price index impacts mortgage rates. Like, we get from start to finish on it. And the idea is not too dissimilar from what like today I had my team meeting. Like, I provide my agents with like a 10-second snippet so that this week when someone inevitably asks you like, what's the market like? You can say something that's not like, oh, it's super hot. Like there's lots of offers, because anybody can say that, right? It's like, it's so stupid. People say agents say the dumbest stuff, and you can immediately become like the go-to person for your friend group because your one friend asked at your one night out with 6 other friends there, how's the market? And you talked about the CPI coming in hot, and they're like, how does that impact anything? And you work your way all the way through the deal, how the MBS coupons are traded and why that matters for liquidity in the mortgage market, like all that kind of stuff. And then we kind of bring it all together, right? And we'll talk about, home builder confidence or any other metric and what we're seeing, why it's impacting stuff, how it impacts us nationally, but also, we get a little more granular, like looking at InfoSparks on our MLS. It's like a data aggregator. So we'll look through that and say, here's what we're seeing locally. Like, here's how things are shifting. Here's where we think things are going. And I don't know, it's been fun to do just because you learn new stuff by doing it. For sure. I think it's good content. If you're into like really understanding the way that the economy works and how it, impacts real estate, it's some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, sounds like it. When you said that, I literally was looking at some houses here in San Antonio today, and the owner was nerdy something. And immediately he was like, did you guys buy stuff here? Like, what's happening? It was 2 different LLCs, both listed by the same broker, but 2 different nerdy something LLCs.
Oh, that's funny.
Like, they're just chaining like this nerdy like brand on something.
No, one plug I will give is our company name is Hive Lane, HIVELANE, MN. So we've got a pretty good Instagram following. We post pretty pictures and funny reels of all the remodels we're doing. Nice. Which is fun. We were the Honey Brothers at the beginning. It was kind of an inside joke spoof, and it like turned into the name of our company. And then the wives all started getting a little bit more involved, and they're like, we're not brothers, so we got to change that. So now we're Hive Lane. So yeah, if people want to check us out there, we like interacting with people on Instagram. So
yeah, for sure. I'll put a link down in the show notes. So
yeah.
Before we take off though, I want to ask you a couple questions. What's your favorite pastime not related to business?
Favorite pastime not related to business? Playing sports with my kids. Fishing. No, I'm gonna go with fishing. Just got into fishing. Bought a cabin 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, nice. Very nice. Is this fly fishing? What kind of fishing?
Nope. Like bass fishing.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Very nice. Kids? How many kids you have?
3.
3?
Yeah.
All right. Ages? I got a 5 and a 2.
You have a 5 and a 2?
Yeah.
Nice. We've got just turned 7, just turned 5, and then turning 2 tomorrow.
Turning 2 tomorrow. Wow. Big. My video just died, so we'll
that's all good.
Yeah. All right. So last 2 questions. What's your best thing or memory that's happened to you and your family in the last 60 days or so?
60 days.
Recent memory. Could have been last week.
I'm going to go with my son's birthday this last weekend.
Yeah.
He's crazy sports fans who went to like the local gym and just played sports, and he wore like the most ridiculously him thing ever. Like so Sam Cassell was an old T-Wolves basketball player.
Yeah.
My son's gotten really into him. So we found him like a vintage Sam Cassell jersey for Christmas. So he wore that and like double arm sleeves.
Nice.
So he was looking good.
That's cool. So they're back to back then, right? Birthday wise?
Those boys. Oh yeah. So January and then February.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. We, ours are like July and August, like 1 month apart.
There you go.
Nice. 2 years apart. All right. And then last thing, name 1 or 2 people that have been most influential in the way that you think or to your success.
Oh gosh. My college baseball coach, John Anderson, he's been at the University of Minnesota for like 45 years, taught me a ton. And then my first ever listing client who became like my best friend, one of my best friends, and he passed away like 3 years ago of lung cancer. His name's John Noonan. I got a long story about him, so I won't tell it.
Yeah.
Just was an awesome guy, and taught me a lot about how you treat other people and business and everything in between.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, AJ, we'll wrap it with that. It was great to have you on the show. Thanks again for coming on. And yeah, I'm going to pick your brain a little bit more about property management when we get to that point.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Randall. Thanks.
All right. You guys, you have a good one. Bye.
Did you know that 80% of the agents we speak with got into real estate in order to gain passive income so they could obtain financial freedom and become work optional? If you want to stay up to date, the best way is to make sure you're subscribed. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do it now. We'll catch you on the next episode.